I have a lot of friends now that have children. The one thing
Gaming.
I can always count on there is exactly gaming, fantasy football. Like,
Mm,
we're talking about the games in a group chat. Like, it's all those kind of things that just create those touch points. You have to be super intentional about that because that will only become harder.
yeah.
It's very difficult to maintain consistency with that kind of stuff. So you have to make a conscious effort to do that. And it's very easy when you're tired to be like, I'm just gonna skip this. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna not do this. And you have to
Hmm.
you have to be like, I'm not going to do this because
It's a red flag.
my nigga, it's gonna be 1 degree Fahrenheit. Like,
That's 30 degrees below where how does something is not adding up, because if it's water freezes at 32 and it's 30 degrees more the cold direction than that, don't shouldn't you instantly die? Like
nah,
you're made of water.
nah. Cause your body's heating it up, man. You got homeostasis.
Your body's not 1 degrees. It's just
Yeah.
the air is. Okay, true. Damn. What's the lowest? Because I saw it was some Eskimo lady in Russia, and she was living in this town that was like the coldest town on earth, and the shit is crazy. Like I forget
It's averaging like -10 or something.
some crazy shit like that. -14, -15 Fahrenheit, and it's like the place looks. It doesn't even like you. It's so cold you can't see anything. Like the air is translucent. It's not clear air, and so you can't even see your fucking hand because the air is like frosted glass. And they go to the market or whatever to like go to the fish market. All the fish are just laying out on the tables like fruit because it's so cold that they're frozen fucking solid. The outside is the fridge. And so it's like if you wanna cool something, you don't need a fridge. You just put the meat outside the door. Everything's frozen forever. You know what I mean? Like you gotta warm shit up to get it to refrigerator temperatures, you know? If you want it to
Yeah.
just be like a clean, 20 degrees, 30 degrees, you gotta put it in the microwave.
So I will say the lowest temperature that I've ever personally experienced was -4 degrees Fahrenheit.
What was the
And
context?
I was at a fucking football game.
You were outdoors
I
doing
was outdoors. I
supposedly
was
fun
outdoor.
shit.
Yes. And like
You
it
would
was
never fucking catch me in.
it was
Fuck
so
no.
fucking cold that niggas was going to the bathroom because the bathroom had like a heater in it, and niggas was just like going and taking turns and like warming up
Yeah.
in the fucking bathroom at the fucking stadium. And I remember feeling so cold and being colder than I'd ever been in my life, to the point
Mm.
where like I'm not a small person. I'm literally fucking shivering and like
Yeah.
my hands are fucking up and shit. And I immediately went out and I was like, I gotta buy the biggest fucking like coat I've ever experienced because I'm never gonna feel like this again. So I got
Yeah.
this big ass coat immediately after. And you ever see A Christmas Story? Like that shit that he
Uh,
got in where like it was so big he couldn't fucking put his hands down.
yeah,
Like that was the
yeah.
shit I went and got. Yeah, 100%. I'm looking like the fucking
Michelin Man.
Gore-Tex jacket with George Costanza, bro. Like look that shit up.
Okay.
That's a baller ass reference.
Let me see.
Uh,
Continue.
yeah. But while you're looking that up, welcome to Waving the Red Flag, the number
Ah,
one meteorology, climatology, and relationship podcast, at least in the lower third of the southwestern United States.
mm,
I don't know about nowhere else, but lower third, southwest United States, we 100% dominating the fuck out of that shit on some meteorology, climatology type shit. Do
been
not
that.
look that up. Do not look up our credentials in terms of meteorology or climatology. That
Yeah,
shit
you're
is
not a real
G14 classified.
you're not a real listener if you try and even do some shit like that. It's really
100%,
backstabbing
man.
shit.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, trust us. Trust me, bro. Trust
Yeah.
me. Goddamn. Shit. So what we getting into next, since we done already beat the dead horse of the cold to death?
All right. So,
Yeah.
how to maintain friendships when friends have kids, jobs, and relationships and shit like that. Yeah, I was listening to this to something, and these two women they were like friends, and one of them had always wanted a child, and the other one didn't necessarily, but she ended up getting pregnant. But the one that had always wanted a child couldn't get pregnant as easily as she had hoped. Once the other one had had a child, now she's spending all of her time, especially during the pregnancy and shit like that. She didn't want to make the other one feel self-conscious about like, oh, I've got a baby bump and you can't, and da 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 da. And so they're both kind of mutually jealous of each other as well, because she's like, oh, you're free even though you want to have a kid, she's the other one is like, oh, you have this kid and now you can't hang out with me, which sucks, but I'm also jealous that you like have a child, which I've always wanted, and now we can't be like mommy besties. You now are making new friends because the child is all subsuming in your life. So you're like, all right, I'm hanging out with other women who have kids so we can talk about boring kid shit that you don't want to bore me with or hurt me with. Yeah, they stopped talking for like 3 years or some shit like that before they kind of became friends again and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's the thing that people go through a lot. Like first when you leave out of college and then you go to different states, shit falls apart. You get a new job, you get a more extensive job, or you get a girl or a husband or whoever, and then it's like, oh, I don't have time. And everybody's complaining about being lonely, but it also feels like, yeah, friendships fall apart very easily in adulthood. So I'm curious if we've got any insight into that, or if you've got any techniques for addressing that in your own life.
Yeah, I will say for me, I think, and I haven't done this like alone. I think that all of my various friend groups have done a really good job of building in mechanisms where we connect. And when it's for me with like the one-offs, I think I have done a good job of building in those touch points, man. So like my best friends from like undergrad, even if it's just a text to be like, hey man, like I'm thinking about you, like, hey, how's it going? Hey, I heard this song. You up on the new Benny, some of that kind of shit. So like I have schedules of like when I need to circle back from those kind of things. And again, I think it's particularly good for the friend groups where you have, or ideally you have something that you can still have a defining something in that group that is outside of things like children, things like a husband, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I know like for my UGA crew, it's always what away game are we going to this year? Or,
Okay.
Like I have a group of friends that,
So traditions almost.
yeah, like really likes like anime conventions. They're like, oh, you want to go to this, you want to go to that, like that kind of stuff. So it's something that I make it a priority to make time for every single year to make sure that those are done. And some of this stuff can be done virtually. Like like I have a lot of friends now that have children, and the one thing I can always count on there is exactly gaming, fantasy football. Like, we're talking about the games in a group chat. Like it's all those kind of things that just create those touch points. But I will say that you have to be super intentional about that, because that will only become harder. Like, it's very difficult to maintain consistency with that kind of stuff. So you have to make a conscious effort to do that. And it's very easy when you're tired to be like, I'm just going to skip this. I'm just going to not do this. And you have to be like, I'm not going to do this because I value this relationship and that kind of thing. And I'll just be transparent. Like, a big part of why I continue to like participate in this project as a part of Eddie Budden's project is because
That way.
I view it as a touch point with two friends, with two people who I enjoy talking to, who I don't want to lose a connection with. So I make it a point to try to be consistent with this. I make it a point to I'm if I'm calling off, it's because I got a good reason to call off, because I'm trying to be intentional with how I continue to maintain and cultivate those relationships. And I know that's easier said than done, but you got to make that an effort.
And I agree with intentionality is very key. I'm very system focused as well when it comes to that. Like figuring out ways to make it harder to not hang out than, and like like you said, a project like this where it's just like the default is to do it. And so it's like, so it's kind of the intention being to like kind of combat that sort of like, oh, you have to put in intentional effort. It's like, you almost have to put in effort to not do it at some point once it becomes kind of such a routine, as when there's expectations and check-ins and things like that. But I guess a thing that seems really difficult is, I know you hate Simon Sinek, but I love his takes on friendship, which is that when I think about adult friendships, there's kind of two categories of things that I observe in people, which is friends that you check in with and friends that you live with. And live with not meaning, cohabitate with, but that you share life with. And so when I think about check-in friends, it's like, yeah, cool. I have friends where it's like, oh, okay, I'm in this country. Let's link up. Let's do something. Da da da. We catch up about life. Cool. It's fun. We have a good time. If they're in wherever I'm at, then cool. Come stay with me. That kind of thing. And that's more of like a check-in friend or an old friend that you're, that kind of a thing. And then there's people where it's like, whatever I'm doing in life, they kind of know what the fuck is going on. They're part of it. I know what's going on with them. I'm seeing them kind of like a minimum of a week, of once a week kind of vibes, something like that. Maybe, and oftentimes more than that. Community, I guess, is part of what I'm talking about. And it seems like across time, it's a lot more difficult to maintain that second kind of thing. And a lot of things that were that second kind of thing become the first sort of thing. So it's like somebody who you were speaking to every day when you're thinking about a new job, when you're thinking about your new boyfriend that you want to try, when you're thinking about, oh, should I have kids or not? Is this the right, career move? Now becomes someone who is like, hey, Susan, do you want to catch up for tea? I haven't seen you in 3 months, kind of thing. And that's what the relationship has become. And I think that there's room for intentionality with both, though I suspect that a lot of people are missing the second one, that they want it or would like to have it, and it dissolves because, as you said, when life gets busy, it can be very easy to just go, fuck, I'm tired. Can we catch up another time? I've got all these supposedly non-negotiable things. I have to do this job. I have to be career focused. I have to attend to my romantic partner. I have to attend to my children. Friendship is something that I do at will. So, I have to go to Thanksgiving with my family. These are non-negotiable elements. So friendship kind of is the thing at the end. And so you end up with situations like that.
And I don't have healthy answers to how you manage one or the other, right?
I think true answers works as well. Like, just
So for example,
this is not legal advice, folks. We're just talking.
Yeah, this is it's not. So I work an insane amount of hours. Like I work 90 plus hours a week. In order to like do stuff that like I like from that perspective, in order to like maintain some level of even being a functional adult in terms of like errands and cleaning space and all that kind of stuff. There are 2 nights of the week I just don't sleep.
Dog, that's crazy. I mean, and I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to shame, but like, so you just raw dog.
You can shame me because it's dumb.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to shame.
It's the dumbest shit I do. Like I'm looking for ways where like that's not my life anymore. But yeah, like two nights out of the week I don't sleep.
And so wait, so you're doing 2 within a week. You're doing 2 non-consecutive 48-hour wakefulness periods. Is that what's happening? Or maybe that's 40 hours or whatever it would be if you sleep on either side of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's wild. And and you use that in order to accumulate more wakeful hours that you can use for relationships.
What usually, yes, but it's whatever that I find fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
But I prioritize, post some, some things that happen, external, from a life perspective. I prioritize that time to catch up on things that are relationship based, right? And even the time off I had time off, and I don't take a lot, but I had time off this holiday season, and I didn't sleep a lot during that time. Like I took time off and came back to work more tired because that's what it took for me to drive my ass to fucking Georgia and spend time with my sisters and my nephews. Like that's like, that's what I did. And again, I'm not saying anybody should do that. I'm not saying that I'm pleading that as like because it feels bootstrappy to kind of present it as something that people should do.
But I think
I'm just saying like that's what
prefaced it as this is bad. Oh, well, not bad, but like dysfunctional. But I think also for context, I think that the difference is there are elements of work that you don't have to do. You choose to because it's like a priority for you as opposed to a non-negotiable. And so it's like you've chosen a set of like work obligations that fulfill other elements of your goals in life, what you want to do, and so that leaves you with like low stock in other elements of life. So you're like, cool, I'll take it back from sleep. And so maybe altogether that's dysfunctional. But I think that that doesn't have to come across as advice because so maybe rounding the circle, what I would say is one of the things that I do is I've never prioritized work super, super heavy. Like I've had, in the past, I've had goals or I want to do this or I want to do that, but kind of the supposed work-life balance has always been Like, fuck, if I can't be rich, I can't be rich. That's fine. But I think that people have different kind of goals. And so then it can be kind of difficult where you go like, I have a mission in life. I'm on some Black Swan shit. And you are. So the fact that you're figuring out, even if dysfunctionally, how to maintain relationships is worth noting, I'd say.
And I will also say that there's just certain things that to your point, that feel more organic, so that I do that. So I have two group chats in particular that I'm thinking about that are so active that it feels like Twitter, and I'm connecting with those people like all the time,
Yeah.
right? Like we're talking constantly, and it's
Yeah.
like, if I have a
I
job
fuck with
problem,
that.
like, hey man, like what do y'all think? If it's something I'm super excited about in terms of like my interests, which are,
You let them
like,
know.
I love sports. Like, I'm like, hey man, like, what do you guys think about this? Like, this kind of stuff. And it's so long standing, because one of them is with my friends from grad school, and one is from a bunch of friends that I've known since high school.
Mm.
Um, and I think those are two really good examples of how that's just become like an organic way of how I move through the day, where like
Yeah.
something will happen and I'll just be like, hey man, this bullshit just happened. Like, what do y'all think about this kind of shit? So I think that for me,
Mm.
that also fulfills a void that is more of the friends that you live with dichotomy that you says,
Yes.
that is intentional, but also less. I'm trying to figure out a way to say it. It's like, honestly, it's just less work. It just
Yeah.
feels
It's
like
less
what I
front
want to
loaded.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It feels like I'm just doing what I would normally do throughout the day, and I think that people can nickel and dime their way to having more fulfilling in your life friendships, even at distance, even at a pace that is not at great cost to you, via those kind of things in aggregate. Maybe. I don't know. I
You know,
don't know anything.
you can. I never knew a thing in my life. I don't know nothing. But yeah, I think I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I'm not gonna waste this episode getting into my like. This is a macro problem about city designs and cultural
But
patterns
it
and all this kind of stuff.
is.
Yeah,
But it
but I don't want to.
fucking is.
I don't want to waste the episode on that. I mean, you can, but I'm not going to. It's your show, but I do feel like there's that element, and so I want to just for a moment acknowledge that what's happening is that we're prisoners in a fucking prison trying to figure out how to make pizza out of ramen noodles. Cool, like we're making prison food. That's just what our circumstances is. So with that acknowledged, the way that I make my prison food is that like I'm curious whether or not I could implement some of what you just said, because I'm much more like I want to see people in person kind of thing. Because I don't be on social media like that. I don't like interacting with people in my life through social media because that to me feels not real. It feels I guess I always kind of have viewed social media as like a broadcast mechanism, not a connection mechanism. So I'm like, if I'm seeing your birthday parties or that you had a new baby, that doesn't count as that's me consuming content about your life, most of which maybe I'm not interested in, or if I am interested in it, I want to consume it together with you. You know what I'm saying? I want to meet the
Mhm.
baby. I want to talk to you about how you're feeling about it. That's a connection. You broadcasting to 1,000 people in your, on your small Instagram, that's just a post. That's not us interacting about anything to me. Group chats where it's like less than 15 people, then it gets kind of closer to what you're saying. And I wonder whether or not, because I have had those group chats in the past, but I'm very much a like, everybody come through, let's have a dinner party, let's have a barbecue, let's do whatever, come by, hang, let's watch a movie, let's go see something kind of a person. And I think that can be harder to do, but I put a lot of effort into that. Like it's a pretty high priority in my life. But I think also maybe that's because a lot of the people that I'm around are not super heavy texters. So I feel like the only way that I can connect fully, or the best way, is in person. And I wonder whether that's not because I think like the child having children divide is a not insignificant one.
Mhm.
And then also like living distance, how far away you live from someone. So it's like, you get a partner, you have a child, you move to the suburbs for affordability or whatever, and then it becomes very difficult logistically to hang out, to do deep hanging, if that's the thing, like to deep hang with somebody becomes very, very difficult. And I haven't quite figured out how to do that. I think it's kind of a Chris Rock, two people can move a couch easily, one person can't move it at all kind of a situation, which is like you have to have high effort from both parties to make it work. But I'd like to. That's the thing that I'd like to work on, because that has been a divide in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, and you don't want to complain too much because it's like, what are they supposed to do? You know?
I will say the thing that even I wonder how me and my friend groups are going to manage is now people have small children, right?
Is that kind
So
of
it's
a new development among your folks?
yeah, man.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
have like I have like that set of people that I know from like way back that had kids like super early. So like now they have like
Mm.
an eight
Teens or
year
something.
old. Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
like they, yeah. So like yeah, like 8 year old go to grandma's house, whatever. But like it's like
yeah,
you got a new baby, which is becoming
yeah.
more and more
It's rough.
common. It's like yeah, like what are you gonna do? So I am wondering how we're gonna keep up with tradition and stuff in light of that. But thus far, the distance hasn't really been that big of a deal.
Okay,
Um,
and that's mostly because of things like group chats
mhm.
or something
Group
else,
chats,
and
group
traditions.
chats, group chats, traditions, finding ways of like things that we like to do anyway, and things that we like to be a part of anyway, fit into a group setting, gaming, fantasy
Mm.
football, et cetera, et cetera. It kind of works for me, but I 100% understand why that wouldn't work for some people if you're more of an in-person kind of thing. And from
Mm.
that perspective, I and you would this is really a question for you. It's like, how do you manage a distance with people that you've known, for a long time, that you want to maintain those relationships with? Because I think like I've kind of given a
Mm.
piece that is very focused on distance, but if like those metrics just innately don't work for you, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, historically, I've kind of approached it as, well, one or two things. Because I'm very, sort of like, I like traditions and I like schedules and things like that. So I'm very like, how can we automate this thing? I very like, if I'm like trying to maintain, and yeah, it can be funny in some circumstances, but I'm like, you know how couples will sometimes like schedule sex, and it's like that's kind of viewed as like this roboticized weird thing, but it's like
They're like,
to
it's
some
it's
extent,
Friday, and like
yeah, it's
yeah,
penis time, and
yeah.
it's, I feel like in a lot of those situations, it's viewed as a problem, or it removes the romance or something like that. But it's like, I think that there's something about intentionally saying the things that we want to do are not meant to be points of negotiation or ad hoc planning, because negotiation and ad hoc planning are what you do for things that are the lowest priority. So when am I going to go shopping for this? Or when's the next time I go to McDonald's? Or when do I watch my TV show? Those are all things that you kind of negotiate and move around the constellation of other immovable elements of your life, which is, when do I feed my baby? There's a schedule for that. You don't negotiate that. When do I show up for work? The same fucking time that you did yesterday, every single week for the rest of your life till you die. That's what that is. When do I go to Thanksgiving with my family or whatever? That's non-negotiable for some people. So you just have to do that. And so I think that when we go, okay, hey, like fucking Bethany, whatever, we have to fucking catch up or whatever, like that's now a negotiation happening ad hoc. And I'm very much like, okay, how can we make it not? Like, okay, cool. We have a trivia night. We all get together every Tuesday. Some of us are not gonna be able to make it, but every Tuesday we do that. Or once every year we do a trip to the Bahamas. Whatever it is, that's non-negotiable. Every year we're doing it. I think those kind of things help a lot with that sort of thing. And getting people on board can be really difficult, because I think that people are, I don't know. I think people are lazy about making the lives that they want to live. But uh, but I think, yeah, being not just intentional but systematized about some of those things is really important. Saying like, this is as important to me as my job, um, is a commitment that I think changes a lot of things, especially if you're a more of an in-person kind of person than me. But even with the group chats and online games and all that kind of stuff, prioritizing that the same way you do the things in your life that aren't negotiable makes a big difference.
I agree. All well said. All well
Yeah.
said. Yeah, man. I think we've
Yeah, let us know your questions in the comments, because I'm curious to see what other people's experiences of this has been, going through moving to new places, new partners, your friends having kids, and how do you maintain your closeness with them? The other thing is making new friends. That's another thing of being like making new friends who are of a lifestyle that is compatible with what I want. Because sometimes you just change. It's like, oh fuck, this motherfucker works in the Arctic Circle. It's just gonna be hard as hell to maintain a genuine relationship with this person. I'd like to, but it's just hard as fuck. So make a new friend. In addition, not saying fuck you, never talk to me again, but just what am I to do? And I don't know if that's the correct approach, but that is the approach that I take.
No, I feel that, and I think that making new friends for a new season in your life, while still, and I think you can, to your point, I think you can split the difference on that. I don't think you have to completely discard everything, that was in the past, but making new friends in a new season of life, I think is very fulfilling, and is also something that I've fortunately been able to do, as well, while still maintaining and cultivating past relationships. So I think that's good advice.
Easier said than done, though. But yeah, what's
very
next?
very hard in my old age.
Yeah, big facts.
It's a red flag.